Hello guys, welcome to Questpond YouTube channel. This is Gurunatha, a programmer and a BI expert with over 14 years of experience. And I am here to present you the top 10 frequently asked Power BI interview question and answers. So hey guys, you can see that these are those 10 questions which we are going to cover in this video. So the 10 questions are like, what are the calculated columns? What are the calculated measures? Differences between the calculated column and the measure. What are the parameters? What are the Power BI data gateways? Do we need the data gateways for scheduling the refresh? What is query folding in Power BI? All this question we are going to answer in this video. So hey guys, if you are preparing for the Power BI interviews or if you are looking for Power BI job, then I must say that you should not miss this video. Watch this video completely because in this video we are going to answer all this question step by steps. So I request you guys that watch this video completely. Before we jump start, I would love to give away my complete updated Power BI interview question and answers ebook. So if you want to receive this ebook, then what you need to do? Yes, you need to share this video on your social account channels like Facebook, Twitter and LinkedIn. And once you've done that, you need to send us a mail on questpond@questpond.com. You can see that the mail ID is mentioned over here with those shared URLs. We will just check that URLs and once everything looks good, we will send our ebook via email. So simple, right? So now, without wasting any time further, let's get started with our question number 1. What are calculated columns and how to create calculated columns in Power BI? A very important interview question. If you are going for a Power BI interview, then you can expect this question on your table anytime. So I request you that don't skip this question. Watch it completely. And now let's understand how to answer this question. Calculated column is a new column which is created by defining the calculation. As the name says, this new column, as you can see here in this image, has to be created by using the calculation methodology. So yes, in order to define a new column in Power BI, yes, we need to take the help of calculations. Hence the name is calculated columns. Now you can consider the calculations can be any type of calculation. For example, it can be a concatenate calculation. For example, here in the second picture you can see that we have the first name column, we have the last name column here, and here we have created the new column by concatenating the both first name and last name. So yes, for this definitely you need to write the calculation. So once you write that calculation, yes, you can define this new column by combining the first name and the last name. So if you have the scenarios where you have to combine the both the column data, then definitely you have to create the new column by using the calculation. In our third image, you can see the proper example. So here we have subtracted the product price with the product cost to get the complete profit. And this is also one type of a calculations. Here you can use the simple mathematical calculations also, or you can use some DAX functions also, like for example a date format or a related functions and a format function and so on. There are many DAX functions which you can use to create the column, to create the calculated column. Yes. Now this is the simple calculation which we have demonstrated in the third image. You can see that we have just calculated the profit here. Okay. So in simple words, if you need a new column with some massage data or transform data rows, then yes, we can use the calculated column, a new calculated column. Now, before you end your answer, to create the more impact on your answer, you can also tell some benefits of creating the new column. That is, yes, you can say that in the data model, one benefit of creating the calculated column is to establish the relation between the two tables where no unique field exists. So, suppose if you have two tables here, one is the sales table and one is the dimension table, that is the time dimension table. Definitely, if you want to create the relationship between the two tables and where the unique field does not exist, that is a primary key or foreign key values does not exist, but still if you want to create the relationship, then yes, via the calculated column you can do that. So for example, suppose in the sales table you can add a date key here with the proper formatting, and here also in this table, that is the time dimension, here also you can add a date key here, and you can combine those two columns via the relationships. Okay, so it means that you are creating the relationships between the two tables. Now this is the one more benefit of having the calculated columns. You can also add this point also to your existing answer. Remember friends, when you talk about some benefits or some useful tips or something very useful supporting to your answer, definitely it will create an impact on your answer. Interviewer will love to hear all these points, it will create a great impact on the interviewer's mind that you know something more than this topic. Now, how to create this new calculated column in Power BI? So for that, let me just open up my Power BI here, and here let me just show you there are different ways we can create the new calculated column. So the first way is, let me just go to my home ribbon here, and here under the modeling, can you see that? So under the modeling we can create the new column here, and also if we go to the tables here, and we can choose any one table where we want to create the new column. So we can say more options here, and here also we can say new column. So this will create the new calculated column. And also we can go into the data here. So we can go into the data, and here also we can create a new column saying that a new calculated column. So once we click on here, we can able to create the new calculated column. So as you can see here, right? So here we can write some DAX function or simple mathematical functions also. So this is how you have to answer this question, and this is how we can create the new calculated column. I hope you understand it. Now let's move on to the another question. What are calculated measures and how to create calculated measure in Power BI? A very popular interview questions with respect to Power BI. If you are going for a Power BI jobs, then you can expect this question 99% of the time in your table, no matter what kind of experience you have, but this question can arrive you on your table anytime. So be prepared for this question. So if you look at the Power BI is all about visualization and the DAX calculation, and this DAX calculation, that is the data analysis expression calculation, is totally depending on the measure and the new calculated column and tables sometime. Okay, so it is very important interview question. Now let's go and understand what are calculated measures. Measure is all about defining the numbers. For example, you can define a total population. Let's suppose if I define some number like 12150, measure is all about defining a numbers, right? And this number can be your total population of the city, a total profit, a total sales, a total revenue, how much sales you made it today. It's all about defining a number. Measure in simple word means a number only, and this number we get it from some calculation, some aggregation, and so on. So measure is another way of defining the calculation in data model. Yes, measure which is already exist in data model, and we use this measure as an expression and apply it whenever we want and wherever we want, depending on the situation, depending on the requirement, what we want to display as a calculation. Here in measure, we aggregate the values from many rows in the table using the DAX functions like sum, count, min, max, average and so on. There are many DAX functions we can apply in a measure. Now for example, if I want to total the product cost, then yes, I can do that via the product category also. Means I can take the product category and I can total sum up this one, or I can sum up the entire product price column. So how does it happens? When I use this function, the sum of product cost, then internally the Power BI engine automatically calculates the product price depending on the product category also and depending on the total product price also. So you can get the two values from here. You can get a total product price, a total of the entire column of product price, and also the total of product category wise also. So everything it does internally via the Power BI engine. So just we need to write some formula here, write some expression, and we have to choose the particular column on which we want to apply this expression. Remember that when we use the expression as a measure, then we cannot see the value of that particular measure. Okay, now how to create this new calculated measure in Power BI? It's very simple. Let's see that there are multiple ways that we can create the new calculated measure. So let's see that. So now you can go into this modeling ribbon. You can see that from here also you can create the new measure here, or else you can go into the data here, and here also you can create the new measure, or else you can create a new measure, new calculated measure by clicking on the table more options, and here you can say the new measure here. Right, so there are multiple ways that you can create the new measure automatically. Now once you click on this new measure here, you can see that a new field has been created, a new field has been generated here automatically with the calculator icon, and this field is nothing but our calculated measure. So here you can rename with any name whatever you want, and here you can write some DAX functions here. So with this automatically an expression is generated, and you can use that expression, you can use that field in your visualization automatically. Okay, so this is all about the calculated measure. Now let's move on to the another question. Explain the difference between the calculated column and a calculated measure. A very popular interview question. You can expect this question 99% of time in your Power BI interviews. So I request you that don't miss this question. In our previous questions, that is the question number 1 and the question number 2, we already understood what is the calculated column and what is the calculated measure, and how to create the calculated column and how to create the calculated measure. We understood that both part in our previous question. Now in this question we will do the exact difference between the calculated column and a calculated measure. Now without wasting any time further, let's get started by understanding the differences between both the column and the measure. So when a new column has been added to the data model via some formula, then that column is known as a calculated column, whereas a new measure is created when you do some kind of aggregation based on the entire data set. So this is how a measure and column is been generated in a data model. Now when the column is been added to the data set, yes, we can view that column, we can view the data also, but whereas when a measure is added, we cannot view that data. This is again the one more difference. You can see that here in our second line. Now coming to the third differences, when the column is been calculated, the calculation happens on the each row. So for example, let me just open up my Power BI and let's understand this statement. So you can see that this is my data here. Now suppose in the row level, if I want to change this country name to the uppercase, then definitely I will use the calculated column not the calculated measure here. Now suppose if I want to change the date format for all the rows, then definitely I will use the calculated column. So there is a particular scenario then why and when to use the calculated column. So now on the other hand, if we talk about the calculated measure, then definitely I will use the value column here, not any string columns, because measure is all about numbers only. If you want to sum up, if you want to aggregate anything, then definitely we do everything on the numbers only. As the measure says, measure means numbers. If you want to sum up anything, then definitely you need a numbers. If you want to aggregate anything, you need a number. If you want to create the average, then you need a numbers only. But here the aggregation happens on the entire data set, not on the row level. Kindly note that. Now if you want to sum up, if you want to take the total value of this entire column, then definitely use measure, not the calculated column. If you want to play around with the row level, then definitely you can use the calculated column. If you want to work around with the entire data set, then use the measure. But measure is useful when you have some numbers only, right? Now let's understand the third difference. So this is completed. You can see that evaluation happens on the entire data set of the table, right? And this calculation also changes based on your visualization. What type of visualization you are using in the report, the calculation also changes, and this calculation happens on fly using some Power BI engine which is working behind it. So this is also one of the benefit of using the measure here. So suppose if you are using the card, so then it will total up the entire total sales and it will show you like this 12510. Okay, if you are using some kind of a stack bar or a stack column chart, then definitely based on the product type or product category, this number will be divided. For example, let's suppose for the coffee product, the total sales will be like 1201, and for tea, green tea, it will be like 1500. So you can see that these numbers, this aggregation changes based on your visualization. What type of visualization you are using, this calculation automatically renders according to the visualization. Okay, now this is the benefit of using the measure, whereas this dynamism will not happen when you use the calculated column. The numbers will be static only. If you are using in the card, it will be 12150. If you are dividing it as a stack bar column chart, then it will be like 12150 only as a static column. Now on the same, if you see the fourth difference, that is the calculated columns are also called as static row level attributes. So for example, if you have one column as a first name and the second column as a last name, and if you want to combine both the column data into the third column as a new calculated column, then you can do that via the concatenation, and that values, whatever the values are there, that will be the row level static values only. And one more example you can also consider, that if you are adding up, suppose the product profit with the product sales, and if you want to total up into the new column, then yes, you can do that. If you are doing some kind of addition, if you are doing some kind of a subtraction, if you are dividing, if you are multiplying, if you are concatenating anything, or if you are changing the format of the date, or if you are changing the format of the string values, then yes, you can use the calculated column, which is yes, again the row level static attributes only. Now on the other hand, measures are also called as dynamic aggregation. Why dynamic aggregation? Because we just talked about in our previous differences that this aggregation changes based on your visualization. What type of visualization you are using, the values automatically gets calculated, and this calculation happens Power BI engine. We just need to write the formula, some aggregation formula like sum, sumx, or count, average, min, max. We just need to write the formulas, and once we create that measure, then definitely depending on the visualization, the values will be changing dynamically. Hence measures are also called as dynamic aggregation. And one more difference, this new column, whatever the new calculated column we create, it occupies the space in PBIX file, that is Power BI file, whereas whatever the measure we create, that does not occupy any space, but yes, it will occupy some space in the cache level or in the memory level. Okay, now one useful area where I have found that calculated columns are very useful, that is when you want to create the relationship between the tables when there is no unique field exist, that is the primary key or a foreign key unique field does not exist, then definitely you can use new calculated columns to create the relationship between the two tables. On the other hand, measures are useful to do only the aggregation, and the aggregation is only done on the numbers only. If you want some kind of a dynamism in the calculation based on some number calculation, then yes, you can go with the measures here. And this is again one more benefit which I found here. If you want to create some kind of a relationship between the tables where there is no unique field exist, so somewhere I feel that calculated columns are very useful, somewhere I feel that measures play a major role, but we have to use both the things. Yes, we have to use the calculated columns wherever possible, we have to use measures wherever possible. Power BI offers us both the facility to use the calculated columns and the calculated measures. Hence, this is what the differences between the calculated column and the calculated measure. I hope you understand it. Now let's move on to the another question. What are M codes in Power BI? What are mashup languages in Power BI? What are M query in Power BI? All these are same questions. A very important interview question with respect to Power BI. So, hey guys, how to answer this question? So, you can start something like this. In Power BI, there are three important areas to focus. The first one is the visualization, you can see that. Second one is the transformation part. That is the Power Query Editor part where we just massage the data, where we remove the bad data, and you can see that all that transformation we can do it from this transform data option which is available in the Power BI, right? And the third one is the measure, that is the DAX expressions. So with the help of the measure we can write the DAX expression here. Any formula we can write, we can use those formulas for analysis, for doing the forecasting, right, for doing some calculation. Yes, so the three areas which we focus in the Power BI is the visualization, then the transformation, in the transformation where we massage the data, and in the DAX expression we write the formulas and we take the help of those formulas for doing the analysis, for doing the calculation. Out of these three areas, data transformation is the area where we write the M query. So let me just show you that. Let's go to the transform data. In order to open the Power Query Editor, or I will say to do the data transformation, we have to use the Power Query Editor. So you can see that, friends. Now the Power Query Editor has been opened here, and let me just go to this advanced editor, and here you can see that. So this is the Power Query zone where we write the M codes. Now this M codes is categorized into logical, date, number, text, table, and many more, because there are like thousands of M codes available in the Power BI, and you can easily write those M codes in this advanced editor, or also here in this add column zone. As you can see that I clicked on this add column ribbon here, and when I go to this custom column, yes, we can add those custom column here. So I just click on this table, I will say custom column. A column window will be open here. You can name any column window over here, and let's say if I want to add, let's say date add, you can see that I can add the date here with the added months, with the added quarters, weeks, years, and anything. If I want to do the text split here, I can say text split here. You can see that we can do any function. If you want to work around with the number function, you have this number function, If you want to work with the table function, as you can see that here we have the table function. There are many functions of M codes are available in this Power BI. You can use it as per your needs and requirements. So hey guys, this is also the area where you can write the M codes. Okay, and the basic use of this M code is to clean the data, is to structure the data, and whatever erroneous data is there, if you want to remove that, definitely this M codes really helps you to do that. So for example, if you do any changes here, for example, let's see whatever changes we did here, suppose we have promoted the headers here, you can see that, right? So whatever I do here, you can see that this automatic M code is been generated over here. So whatever I do this change type, so for example, if I just remove the other columns here, just see what happened here. Automatically a new M code is been generated here, and this M code is automatically generated by the Power BI. So you can also take the help of this ribbons, which is available in the Power BI. You can see that we have many ribbons are available, all these ribbons to clean the data and definitely to structure the data. And whatever we use that ribbon, whatever the button we click on this ribbons, so for example, if I click on this replace value, if I click on this merge queries, if I click on this append queries, or if I click on this remove columns or choose columns, whatever I do here, automatically a M query has been generated into this advanced editor area. Okay, and really if I want to delete those steps, I can go here, I can just click on here, automatically that step has been deleted. And when you go to this advanced editor, you can see that that step has been automatically deleted from this advanced editor zone. So basically M codes are very helpful to clean the data, to remove the erroneous data, to structure the data as per the star schema or as per the snowflake design, whatever you want, whatever the requirement is there, you can just structure your data properly with the help of this buttons available in the Power BI, that is under this ribbons, and also with the help of M codes. Now if you want to write the M code from the scratch, yes, we can do that. So for example, you just go here in the queries section, just right click over here, say new query, and just click on this blank query. And so there you go, you can see that advanced editor looks very blank over here and there is no source out here. Okay, so for this moment I will just delete this, we don't require it, and I'm going to write the basic program here. So for example, I will say a equal to, let's say, or I will say x equal to 20, so I will say comma, and y equal to 30, comma, and I will say z is equal to x into y. So there you go, and here I'm going to say z, and if I say done, so there you go, you can see the output as 600 here, and you can also see the applied steps over here on the right hand side, that is y is 30, x is 20, so z is equal to x into y. Okay, so let's summarize this. As you can see that you can write your own custom M program, and yes, M codes are very useful to clean the data, to structure the data, and yes, we have to structure the data as per the star schema and the snowflake design. So this M codes and this whatever the ribbons are there here in this Power BI, you can take the help of these ribbons to structure your data properly. So this is all about the M codes in Power BI. I hope you got it. Now let's move on to the next question. What are parameters in Power BI? So guys, again a very important interview question. So why it is important? Because these parameters, as you can see that we have this parameter option over here in Power BI, you can see that, right? So these parameters help us to store the value, and the parameters gives us flexibility to dynamically reuse, update and change, and this change can be dynamically change the output of the queries or change the output of the reports. Yes, that's why it's very important interview question. You can expect this interview question in your Power BI interviews. So don't ignore this question. Be with me. Let's understand how to answer this question. Now, we have two types of parameters in Power BI. Let me just show you that. First one, we have this query parameter which is available in this Power Query editor, and the second one is the what if parameter, and this parameter is not available in this Power Query editor, but it is available here in this main UI of the Power BI, that is inside this modeling session. You can see that, and here we have something called as what if parameter. Okay, but in this question we are not going to discuss about what is what if parameter, but we are focusing more on the query parameters, because this what if parameter, this question we are going to cover in our next upcoming video of Power BI. Here in this video we will only focus on how to answer the parameters with respect to the query parameters. Okay, so now let me just go into the transform data here again, and here in this session you can see that we have this manage parameter sections over here. Okay, so now let me just click on here manage parameters, and I will say new parameter over here, and here you can see that we have this parameter option to create the parameters. So now these parameters are called as query parameters, and the query parameters help us to dynamically change the output of the queries, and we have the types in the query parameter, like you can see that we have the list of values. We can give any default value, we can also give the values from the query based also. Okay, now how to give any value here? Just select this any value, give any value name over here, that's it, done. We have to give the parameter name over here, and in case if you want to give the list of values, just click here. It will give you the list of value option where you can enter the multiple values over here, like whatever the values you want to enter, like A, B, C, whatever you want to enter. Okay, if you want to enter the country names, you can enter like India, Australia, USA, any country names. In case if you want to fetch the values from the query, just select the query here. Now how to get the queries? Definitely we have to go to the location over here, and for example if I want to query as per the state wise, then what I will do, I will say select the state here, and I will say add as a new query over here. So there you go, my list has been ready over here, and I will say right click, remove duplicates. So that's it, my state query is been ready. Now to add it over here in this manage parameter, I will say new parameter over here, and let's say I will give the parameter name as state parameter. There you go, and I will say any here. So the data type we have to present over here. If the data type is decimal, you have to select the decimal. If it is the date time, you have to select the date time. If it is a text, if it is a binary, whatever the data type is there, select the appropriate data type. But here in this case I am going to select any here, and in the suggested values, that is the types of parameter, so I will say query parameter it is, and here I am going to select the state here. You can see that, and by default we have to give some value over here, any value you can give. So for now I will give the value as Texas here. So there you go, I will say okay here. There you go, we are done now. Okay, and I will go to the fact table here. I am going to connect this this parameter value with respect to this fact table. I'm sorry, not the fact table, I will say a location table over here. So I will right click over here, and I will go into this filter option. So I will say text filter, and I will say equals here. There you go, and here I am going to select via the parameter. So parameter, state parameter, I will say okay. So there you go. Now my location table has been filtered as per the state wise, that is the parameter wise, and you can see that. and if I click on this advanced editor, you can see that the filtered rows and the table selected rows as per the state parameter. Here you can see that means this value is coming from the parameter of the state here. And yes, we can change the value of this parameter dynamically. Just go here, and yes, you can select any state from here. For example, if I want to select California, so I will say California. So there you go. I will click on here. That's it. Oh, I'm sorry. I will click on here, location. There you go. So now we are done now by linking the state parameter with this location table here. Okay. Now what I will do, I will say close and apply over here. So there you go. We are done. And you can see that automatically this California report has been selected. Now you can see that we have the budget sales via the state here, and you can see that automatically the state California has been selected over here. Okay. And what I will do, in case if you want to change this value dynamically, what you have to do, just go to this transform data and say edit parameter here, and here you can choose any other states here out of this drop down. So I will say New York, I will say OK here, and I will say apply changes. So there you go. You can see that my report now has been updated with the new budget sales of New York. You can see that, right? Yes, if I want to change something else, I will go to the edit parameter and I will choose, let's say Texas. I will say OK here. Now this report will be applied as per Texas state here. Wow, you can see that, right? So hey guys, this is how the parameters gives us the flexibility to change the output of the report. Not only just report, but also the query of the table, that is the state table, because whatever value we are selecting in the state parameter is automatically reflecting in the state, that is the location table. Okay. Now the best example, definitely you have to tell this statement at the end of your answer. The best example to use these parameters, yes, when you are connecting to the data sources, especially the SQL data sources. So if you see here, when I say SQL server over here, if I want to connect to the SQL server, definitely you can see that we have this option of parameters. You can set the server name, you can set the the database name into the parameters, and via the parameters you can connect to the SQL server database. What is the benefit of connecting via this parameters? Because in case tomorrow if you want to change anything, then no need to go to the connection and change everything from the start. You just need to change the parameter of server and you have to change the parameter of database. That's it, you're done. And once you say OK, automatically all the tables with respect to the database, it will be reflected accordingly. Okay, so this is how I feel the use of the parameter is very important when it comes to connecting to the any SQL server, any database, basically, especially this RDBMS database where we have to provide the server name and the database. Okay, so this is the best example you can elaborate at the end of your answer to create more impact on your answer. Okay, so hey guys, this is how you have to answer this question. I hope you like it. Now let's move on to the next question. What are data gateways in Power BI? Data gateways in Power BI acts like a bridge or connector between your on-premises data sources and your Power BI files which are hosted on the Power BI Pro or Power BI Cloud services. So this data gateways acts like a connector, as you can see from this image. Okay, and my friends, this is one of the favorite interview question for an interviewer. So I request you guys to watch this video completely to know this, how to answer this question, because this is very important question. Now when your data sources like for example SQL server or Excel file or any other data which is lies on your computer, I mean on your local machine or on your organization local server machine. So it can be your company's local machine, it can be your own local machine, so it can be your laptop also. If your data lies inside your laptop or in your local machine, then that data is called as on premises data. Okay, and when your files are hosted on the Power BI cloud, definitely if you want to share your Power BI reports, definitely you will host your Power BI files to the cloud services or Power BI Pro account. The benefit of this Power BI Pro account, that when your files are hosted on the Power BI cloud services or powerbi.com, you work more collaborated manner. You share your files with your customers, with your clients, with your IT team, with your seniors very easily. Why very easily? Because your files are hosted live somewhere on the cloud services, right? So this is a benefit of having your files on the Power BI Pro. Now suppose if your data sources like SQL Server, Excel, CSV or any other data source lies on premises data sources and you want to connect to the cloud services like Azure Cloud Services, Power BI Pro, Power BI Cloud Services, Power Apps, SharePoint, then for this process you need the data gateways, because these data gateways securely encrypt and decrypt your authentication and securely process your data synchronization to the cloud services. And for secure data transfer, it takes the help of Azure Service Bus. Yes, so Azure Service Bus is the responsible for secure data transfer between your on-premises data sources and between your Power BI.com or Power BI cloud services. So in short, if we summarize our answer, then if your Power BI files lies on Power BI cloud services or powerbi.com, and if we need the real-time data visualization, and if our data source is on-premises data sources, then definitely to sync or to refresh the data between your powerbi.com to the on-premises data source, we need the data gateways. So data gateways are very important when it comes to working with your on-premises data sources. So guys, this is how you have to answer this question. Now there might be one more question associated with this data gateways, that is, do we need the data gateways for schedule the refresh in Power BI? The answer is yes. If your data lies on on-premises data sources and you want to sync between your Power BI cloud services and your on-premises data sources, and you want to set the schedule refresh automatically, that is weekly schedule refresh or monthly or daily schedule refresh, then for that, yes, we need the data gateways. If suppose if your data is already there somewhere on Azure cloud services, somewhere on SharePoint, somewhere on OneDrive or somewhere on Azure SQL Server, then for that type of data sources you don't need the data gateways. Data gateways are only helpful when your data lies on premises data source only. Okay, and if you want the real-time experience, then definitely you need the data gateways for scheduling the refresh. And if your data is already there somewhere on cloud, then for that automatically you will get that real-time experience. Nowadays many companies database are already hosted on the cloud services, so I don't feel that you need the data gateway so much to understand. But in case if the scenario comes that if your data is there somewhere on premises data sources, then definitely you need the data gateways, or else now 90% most of the companies are already there on cloud server data sources, then you don't need the data gateways. I hope you got this answer. Now let's move on to the next question. What is query folding in Power BI? A very important interview question, friends. If you are going for a Power BI interviews, then you can expect this question 99% of time on your table. So don't miss this question. Now let's understand how to answer this question, a very important interview question. So the process of sending the transform native query, a query which is a part of Power Query. Yes, you'll find this transform native query under this transform data. So let's go there. So you have to go to this applied steps, and when I say right click over here, you will find something called as native query. You can see that at this moment it shows disabled, but I will show you how it will get enabled. So the process of sending the transform native query, a query which is a part of Power Query, back to the data source to get only the transform columns are known as query folding. Okay, this native query will get enabled only if you are using a relational database systems, that is RDBMS. So at this moment you can see that my source is a Excel file here. So what I will do, let me just go to this new source. I will say SQL server, and let me just connect to my SQL server. This is my server name, and let me just connect to the adventurous works database. So I will say OK. There you go. And let me just select dim date, dim product. That's it. I will say OK. There you go, guys. I will say refresh. Yes. Now let me just right click on this navigation, and you can see that we have enabled the native query. If I click on this, you will find the SQL query over here. You can see that, right? So whenever this query is being generated into this applied steps, so what happens, this transform native query sends back this query to the SQL server data source to give only the necessary columns. So that is what the query folding means. So let me just show you that with the example. I will say OK here, and if I go here and let me just see the columns, and yes, suppose if I don't want these columns, what I will do, let me just select this. So there you go. So remove the columns, and I'm going to remove some more columns from here. So let's say I just want to keep the product name here. So I will just go here like this, and let me remove everything. So there you go. You can see that at this moment in my dim product table I have only 3 columns. Now let me just show you the native query of this. So there you go. You can see that my new query has been generated here, saying that select the column product key, product alternative key, and the English product name from this table. Okay, now this query is going to get fire back to the SQL server, and it will ask the SQL server to give only this selected columns only. So it means that Power BI will ask the SQL server to load the data as per this query. So this is what the query folding means. Okay, so in simple words, query folding gives you the optimized column data depending on your transformation requirement by sending this native query back to the source data. So in this case, our source data is our SQL server data. Guys, this is the ideal example to understand the query folding. One more point to be noted when you are working with the query folding, that this native query is not get enabled if your source data is not a RDBMS or Active Directory. So if you are working with some Excel or anything, Excel or CSV or any other data source, then you can see that your native query will be disabled. Why disabled? Because my source is Excel file here. You can see that, right? Now let's come back over here. Now whatever steps you do, it should be properly checked that whether your native query is been generating or not. So for example, so if I say right click over here, and if I say transform to the uppercase, you can see that my uppercase text has been generated over here, and if I right click over here, you can see that my native query has been changed here. You can see that is upper here, right? Now this native query is going to send back to the SQL Server source so that to give us the proper transform data, not this removed column 1. So why not removed column 1? Because new query has been generated when we did some new steps over here. So whatever the new steps we do here, so as per the native query, it is going to send that native query of that particular step. So for example, if you do one step and for that step if there is no native query has been generated, then whatever the latest, or I will say the last native query has been generated, that native query is going to send back to the SQL Server. Now this is the scenario you have to understand. So for example, if I do, let's say, transform to the lower case, and you can see that again my native query has been generated here. So this query is going to send back to the SQL Server to give us the transform data. Now if I do some other step, for example, if I say a split column, for example, and my deeliminator is space, I will say okay here. So now you can see that now this native query has been disabled. So whatever steps you do after this, now you can see that my steps are disabled here, means the native query is disabled. So for example, whatever steps means, so if I say transform to the uppercase, now you can see that I did the uppercase transformation, but still it is disabled. Why? Because in our previous steps native query was disabled, right? So this step and this step will not be accepted by the SQL Server. Whatever the latest, or I will say the last native query was generated over here at the lower case step, so this will be sent to the SQL Server to give us the proper transform data columns. I hope you understand these steps. Okay, so this is how you have to explain the query folding to an interviewer. Okay, so this is how you have to answer your question. I hope you understand it. Now let's move on to the next question. What is the use of the split function in Power BI? Again, this looks very simple question, but believe me, this is one of the frequently asked interview question. So I request you guys don't miss question, because this is most frequently asked question, especially to the freshers. So this question I am covering here in this video especially for the freshers only, those who don't know what is the use of the split function in Power BI. Now you can see that I have a scenario over here where I have this city, state and country separated with some pattern over here. That pattern is called as hyphen here. You can see that. So Chennai hyphen Tamil Nadu hyphen India, then Dallas hyphen Texas, then USA. Similarly New York, then hyphen Texas, then USA. So we have the city hyphen state hyphen country. So it can be something like this: January hyphen 2021, February hyphen 2021, so March hyphen 2021. So you can have some other scenarios also. So if you have such scenarios, it can be some other scenarios. For example, it can be with the colon, it can be with the space. It is not necessary to have this hyphen only. You can have Mumbai space, Maharashtra space, then India. You can have such scenarios also. But if you have such scenario and when you want to split this column into multiple columns, so for that type of scenarios you have to use the split functions. So this scenario you have to understand first, before you are explaining this answer to an interviewer. So if you have such scenario where you want that certain column data, you wanted that column data to be splitted into multiple columns so that you can use those column data properly into your visualization. For that purpose, if you want to split that column data, then definitely you have to apply the split function. Now we are in the home ribbon of our Power Query editor. You can see that now we have the split column here. You can see that. So if I click here, so it will ask you how you want to split this column. So via this deeliminator, via the number of characters, via the position, via the lowercase and uppercase. All the scenarios are there, but most of the times you will end up by using these three scenarios only on the top, especially this delimiter one, because right now you can see that our delimiter is hyphen. Your delimiter can be the tab, the space, the colon, comma, it can be anything. But here in this scenario I have this custom delimiter, that is the hyphen, so it is automatically selected, you can see that. So what I will do, I will just say rightmost delimiter, or I will just say each occurrence of the delimiter, means how many times this delimiter is appeared, I want that many columns to be splitted. So I will say OK over here, you can see that. Now you can see that automatically my columns has been splitted to state, city, country. So I just need to rename it. So I will say city, there you go, state, then the country. There you go, you can see that. Now I can use this table in my visualization for proper visualizations. Okay, so this is the use of the split function. Now you have this split function via the delimiter, via the position, via the number of characters also you can use it over here, or you can use it via the delimiter with some special delimiter here. You can see that colon, equal sign, semicolon, space, tab, etc. Okay, in case if you don't have, you can use it as a custom one also, like we did it here. Okay, so hey guys, this is the use of that split function. Okay, and if you want to split it via the Power Query, yes, you have to go to the add column, custom column, and you have to use something called as text split here, you know. So I will say test here, and if you want to split it, you can split it over here. So I will say test data split, you can see that, but this will give you some other output. So that output I don't want to get into right now, but yes, you can split the data with this function also. I just wanted to show you that, okay, with the Power Query formulas. Okay, so but frequently we always use this ribbon, that is the split column. Okay, so this is how you have to explain your answer to an interviewer. Okay, so I hope you get it. Now let's move on to the next question. Let's understand the difference between the visual level, page level, or report level filters in Power BI. Again, this is very basic interview question, but very important interview question, especially for the freshers. So that's why I'm covering this question in this part of this video. So when it comes to the visualization, you can see that we have something called as visualizations, we have the fields, and we have one more tab over here that is called filters. So if I expand this filter tab, you can see that we have some filter option over here. So now this on the top, you can see that this is a visual level filters, and this one is the page level filters, and the third one is the report level filters. You can see that. So now let's understand the differences. So if you see here, if I just click on any visual over here, and you can see that this is got activated here. Okay, so if I click here, so according to the visual it will get activated. If I click here, you can see that it is activated. So if I click on this visual level filters, if I select this visuals, then only this visual level filter gets activated. If I select this one, then only it gets activated. If I don't select this one, you can see that that filter is gone. You can see only the two types of filter over here, that is the page level filter and the report level filter. Now this page level filter means for this entire page. You can see that we have this plus button over here. So if I click on this plus button, you can see that a new page has been generated. So this page is like a entire page. Okay, so this tab is like an entire page, and this filter only applicable for this page. So if I say filters on all pages, means all this entire report, that is my report one, you know, that is my PBX file. So if I keep the filter on this part, it means it will filter out on all the pages available in this reports. So I have some number of pages, you can see that. So it will be applicable to all the pages, you can see that, right? So now let's understand one by one. So visual level filter, the first difference is that it is applicable only to that particular visual only. Page level filter means whatever filtration we do, it will be applicable only to that particular page. And report level filter means whatever we do the filtration, it will be applicable to for that entire Power BI file report. Okay, so now let's start. If I want a state, let's start with the visual level filters. That is the first difference we understood. Now let's understand one by one. So if I want a product type, or I will say, let's say product type only. If I say coffee over here, if I select that, you can see that only this visual is got affected here, right? Now if I remove this, let's come back to the basic. If I go to the page level and if I put the product type over here, and if I say coffee over here, now you can see that the entire page, whatever visuals are there in this entire page, it all got affected. And you can see that everywhere the product type coffee is mentioned over here. Coffee, 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 right? You can see that, right? So you can see that here also coffee, right? So if I select something else, if I say herbal tea, you can see that everywhere herbal tea is appeared here. So the page level means whatever you do, whatever the visuals are there in that entire page will affect according to that filtration. Okay, and visual level means to that particular visual only the filtration will be applied. The page level means the entire page, whatever the filtration will be there, it will be applied. Similarly, we have this report level filter. Whatever the filtration you apply on this area, it will be get applied to the entire pages. Whatever the number of pages will be there, it will be get applied to all that pages. Okay, so this is what the differences between your visual level filters, page level filters and the report level filters. I hope you understood these differences. So this is how you have to answer according to this example whatever I have shown you. I hope you get it. Okay. Hey guys, this brings us the end of the part 1 video, and in our part 2 video we are going to see some more few questions related to Power BI interview question and answer series, and this question will be more like a advanced questions. As you can see here, the questions which we are going to cover in our part 2 video, that is we are going to understand the differences between all and all except functions. We are going to understand the differences between distinct function and the values function. We are also going to understand what if parameter in Power BI, and we are also going to understand the DAX, what is DAX and the most common DAX functions, different types of filters in Power BI reports, and we are also going to understand the types of connectivity modes available in Power BI. So all this question we are going to cover in our part 2 video, so stay with us. And if you really like this video, please subscribe to our channel and give a big thumbs up. In case if you have any doubts or any queries related to Power BI interview questions, please do post your comments in the below comment section of this video. I will be very happy to answer your doubts and queries. So thank you very much friends. Happy job hunting.